joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. So, Charles, the recent polls say only about 10% of Americans are still persuadable. But with new smears every day on both sides, I'm not sure that statistic is valid. What say you?
Well, it's hard to know exactly what it means to be persuadable. I think what's remarkable about the two candidates is how well known they are. You go back over the last few election cycles. Did anybody, were there a lot of people who knew about Romney before he ran, even John McCain, John Kerry? You go back and it is very unusual to have two candidates who are universally known, name recognition up there at 90%, have been around for a good 30 years. So opinions were formed going into the campaign. We have now been at it for a month and a half. They are out there. I don't think there's very much new. What is new, and I think the one thing that Trump can do, is the WikiLeaks stuff. That's new information coming out almost every other day. And it isn't enough to say that she's a crook or a liar or whatever, because look at what's in WikiLeaks. You got to pick 3 items, and there are a lot. Just pick any at random.
But wait a minute.
And make that the point of your attack on Hillary Clinton.
So if I'm Trump, then I'm going to go the open borders comment. I'm probably going to go Catholic Church and what that really is, the message. But most of the WikiLeaks stuff isn't about Hillary Clinton. It's about Podesta, the campaign manager, saying questionable things to the campaign staff, or the Clinton Foundation people saying questionable things to the State Department, and the State Department saying questionable things. So there's no video or audio of Hillary Clinton saying anything, and even the open border quote, it's hard to get that in context because we don't know the whole speech. So I don't know if that's going to really resonate as much as the Trump stuff has.
Oh, look, no, it's not going to. Of course, a tape will beat text every time. Sex will beat corruption any time. Nonetheless, since we are not at the peak of that frenzy, we're going into the last debate. It doesn't matter if the overwhelming majority of the stuff in the WikiLeaks is about staff. You've got 90 minutes to talk about 10,000 emails. You only need 1 or 2 or 3 items having to do with Hillary. One of the most damaging is that she says you've got to have a public position and a private position. That goes to the essence of her weakness, that people think, probably correctly most of the time, that she doesn't believe in anything and that she is driven by ambition. In the WikiLeaks release today or over the weekend, you see her scolding her speechwriters because they weren't able to crystallize what her campaign is about. And I think she suggested the 4 fights. It sounded like a slogan for the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. They don't know what it's about because it really isn't about anything.
Well, it's united, we're stronger, or we're stronger together, or
what does that
hope
mean?
and change. Let's go back to hope and change. That was a good one. Now, Chris Wallace, he's your pal. You guys hang around and have malts together and stuff. Wouldn't it be his job rather than Trump's job to bring the WikiLeaks stuff up and specifically say, you know, what'd you mean about the open border? What'd you mean about private and public? What did you mean? What did you mean? And then hold her to account on that. Do you expect Wallace to do that?
I think he will. I think he should. And I think that's what he ought to do with either candidate, to choose something they've said, make them defend it.
What about
the point of a debate?
If you're going to do that with Trump,
the point of a debate is to give it.
All right, so you think he will, and so do I. I think he'll bring up the WikiLeaks stuff. But with Trump, if he goes back to the Access Hollywood stuff, I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think Wallace is going to go back to the Access Hollywood stuff. Do you?
If he does, you pivot right off it. That's the point. The problem with Trump for the last 3 weeks is that he's had all kinds of attacks, and he simply can't get off the personal offense that he feels he has to respond to. This is a matter of his own dignity. He won't get off it. You and I know, everyone knows, his advisors know, that he should be pivoting off and go after her weaknesses, which are many. But he seems incapable of doing that.
Okay.
And that's why he's behind in all the polls that you cited.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, humble opinion,
not really.
Can Trump win? I mean, if, say, he has a good debate on Wednesday, can he close it?
I don't think that he can do it himself. He needs an act of God or an act of Putin. Act of God would be some kind of medical problem with his opponent. Act of Putin would be something in WikiLeaks that links her directly to some kind of quid pro quo, some evidence that in return for money from who knows where, something tangible was given. That happens to be our standard. I think it's much too low a standard. It should be access. But we seem to accept the granting of access in return for money. That's how our system works. That's not a fatal offense. But if there is something of a quid pro quo right in there involving her directly, we heard today about the FBI and State Department wanting to trade favors, but that's underlings way down there in the bureaucracy.
Got to be her.
It's got to be her. And if it is there, that could swing it to the point where Trump, with a good close, could pull it out.
All right. But you know the press isn't going to report it very strongly. And that's
why God invented Fox.
But we've been fair in this campaign. We're not looking to take anything out of context. At least we're not.
But if something comes up,
it'll be reported
here.
here. That's for sure. Charles, thanks very much.